Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3, or no, sorry, Hearts of Iron 4 with the Road to 56 mod. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and of course you can like this video while you're here or before you leave. Would really appreciate that. Okay, well, we are full up with fuel right now, so I don't know that we're going to build any more fuel. I could, but I'm really, instead of overcompensating, really want to see how this goes. Okay, Luxembourg is now at war with us, so let's take Luxembourg out. Why the hell Luxembourg? See this? Is really where I question these things, because that would be, we can discuss the likelihood of Belgium joining the Allies before Germany attacks. Earlier in the 30s, Belgium was aligned with at least France in a general defensive alliance. Belgium pulls out to try to take the policies of, neutrality, to say, hey, because I quite honestly, I haven't read anything on it, other than that they wanted to try, do the neutrality path. But I think they were worried about France's reaction to various German possible aggressions, because at that time it was still just possible aggressions, because I think it was fairly early, but I'd have to look to see just when it was, against the Nazis. Meaning that if, say, the Nazis are reoccupying the Rhine, militarizing the Rhine, and France is reacting to that, Belgium's going, yeah, France, yeah, no. Just because you're going to war over the Versailles Treaty doesn't mean that we want to go to war with you. This is what I think they were thinking at the time. Is possible treaties that France might have with, which it did have some with, Czechoslovakia, that if Germany attacks Czechoslovakia, France goes, hey, this is a defensive war against Germany because Germany attacked Czechoslovakia. We're at war now with Germany, and since it's a defensive war, Belgium, you're now at war. So this is why I think Belgium pulls out. Now, Belgium still tries to do neutrality, but they do make tentative plans. They don't do any joint training exercises, either in the sense of actual troops doing joint training exercises, or even map table, theoretical, oh, the Germans are invading here, theoretically how to organize. They didn't do any of that kind of stuff, but they did sort of kind of have, well, hey, yeah, you guys are, when Germany declares war on us, you're free to come in and help defend us and whatnot. So there was some of that going on, and now Italy wants to go after the Isle of Man. How nice of you, Italy. So I sort of understand that. But I could see a case being made to Belgium and saying, hey, look, Belgium, we have all these French divisions and a few British divisions. We will now move into your country now, because we know Germany's, especially once Germany was at war with France and all. But, still no major offensives here. That I could see Belgium coming into the war. I'm thinking right now. And I don't know, Arno can agree or disagree with me. I don't see the Netherlands coming into the war. Just on the, hey, they did not attack last time. Bicycle troops. They didn't attack last time. Maybe we can stick it out. I could see, I just don't see them going, yeah, we're in it. We're gonna join up with you. I just don't see Belgium doing that. I just don't. I mean, not the Netherlands. Belgium I could see coming in. The Netherlands I don't see. Yeah, and so I think as war is getting closer and closer, the Dutch are going, they could invade. Let's get better prepared. I don't think they ever really did what they should or could. But I do think they, and I'm far from an expert on, 1940 or 1939 through 1940 Belgium, or sorry, I keep saying Belgium, Netherlands, prior to the German invasion. They knew it was a possibility, most assuredly, but I don't think they ever really put the energy or effort that they could have. They were making preparations. They were doing some fortifications. They were doing some training. They were working at it, but it was just sort of like, I would say, half-hearted is my interpretation of what I know. I mean, hell, the Belgians were half-hearted in their work for defense. So, but I could see the Belgians coming in, just because the idea that it, secretly plan and prepare as soon as they're in day one, massive French occupation. I can't ever see Luxembourg ever going in, and I could see, because there was a fair number of, in the hundreds, and that's I think about 600 more or less volunteers for the German army in Luxembourg, and that's fairly high for such a small country. Once Germany occupies them, so by that time they also, it's, I think, really, post the fall of France, and looks like Germany's going to win. Well, air experience. We could look here, create a variant. Nope, it doesn't look like we're going to create much of a variant here beforehand. Or no, we just don't have the... But we're not going to actually start producing them yet, because right now we just need more aircraft. More than we need better ones, I think. So we're going to keep on the current 109s. Okay, we need more rubber. Infantry equipment we have a lot of. Support equipment we also have a lot of. So I think we're going to go with more fighters. And we need more rubber. Are we losing transports to the rubber here? I'm not seeing naval battles really affecting this. Probably it's because France is still neutral. Well, for the moment, let's get some Dutch East Indies rubber. But, well, let's put that to the top. Get that done right away. Let's do some more rubber refineries, because we're gonna presumably lose our access to some of that fairly quickly. Let's also move one of these up to the top. Okay, Nagaro. Yes, always overrun. Not by Monaco. Well, yeah. They had secret talks with Belgium for mutual defense, and we had sent letters to our embassies in Britain, France, and Belgium, detailing plans made by us with the question for troops to help defend. It's a casino, not a country. I was fairly young when I first took one of a bus tour around, out of high school, but a bus tour around Europe, and I remember going to Monaco, and one of the things on the tour, because they sort of take you around and do stuff, and yeah, I was in my late teens. I don't think I was 20 yet, but I was like 18, 19 years old. I forget exactly the age I was. And one of the stops was in Monaco. One of the things was changing the guard at the palace. And I watched those people do changing of the guard, the official Monaco changing of the guard ceremonies, and do their, marched out. I still remember they were wearing white jackets. I could have done their drill better than they did their drill. My high school naval ROTC, junior ROTC drill team was at least twice as good at drill, marching in step, doing the whole, present arms, doing the whole drill. I was not on the ROTC, naval ROTC. I'm stressing naval ROTC drill team. I was not on it. Okay, I did not have enough interest in wanting to be a parade trooper, person who does that. Those guys that did it really sort of did it. It was almost a sport to them, and a few of them were really good with it. I mean, we had 1903 Springfield rifles with plastic buttstocks set up as drill, and the whole bolt action was completely welded up. So they were just a big club. I mean, I guess theoretically you could stick a bayonet on it, but otherwise it's not really a weapon. I mean, they had been made as weapons. They were the real deal, but they why are Soviet aircraft flying over France? Did Italy give them permission to base out of? I know they're at war with France, but did Italy give them permission to base out of here? Okay. So yeah, their ceremonial drill that's for their casino, for their tourist attractions, was pathetically bad. So yeah, I think Luxembourg could take Monaco. That's how bad Monaco is. But yeah, it ain't good. And I hear you, Arno, about that. Luxembourg has capitulated. We got some fuel, got some short magazine the Enfields, it looks like, and some Ross Mark 3s. Why do they have Canadian Ross guns? I don't know. Politics and war/defense plans. Who are these people? Mexico. I guess Italy accepted them in as sending in forces. I know I didn't. Politics often has moves countries into making defensive plans that are unrealistic. NATO's plan, they trained for it, they developed it, they trained for it, was when the war breaks out with the Warsaw Pact, was to attack the Warsaw Pact, because they couldn't have a plan that just sort of goes, oh, yeah, West Germany, yeah, we're just going to let them battle. We're just going to battle in your country. So, instead of, sort of, have some good fallback lines and defensive positions and come back to the Rhine and do all this stuff. So no, it was to meet the very first initial waves of Soviet attacks. This is if I remember all correctly. Sorry if I get some of this wrong. Meet the initial wave of Soviet attacks, defeat that, and then immediately push off onto an offensive into East Germany. This is entirely unrealistic and not any sort of real practical plan, and this was just because of the politics. And since the German government, the German army, and literally the German people watch us train at the time, because we were all the British Army of the Rhine, the, U.S. commitment into Germany, and whatever the French called their commitment. Was all to all training in Germany, so they couldn't watch, say, tactical drills of retreat back to the Rhine River or anything else and go, yeah, you mean your plan is to use our country as your battlefield? So they didn't, politically they didn't do it. Now, you have, how do I put this? I can imagine people not having a clear understanding of what's going to be coming at them in World War II. Okay? Because they're still looking at World War I. They still don't understand what's going to be coming at them. Though they did have the example of Poland. Now, I don't know what, say, the Dutch or the Belgians, the government, the defense ministry, the army, whatever you want to call them, thought of the Polish army. I don't know what they thought of it. Whether they thought it was a good army or they thought it was junk, I have no idea. But they had to have just seen how quickly obliterated it was. Now, maybe it's just politically impossible, but particularly if I was Belgium, looking at the First World War, I mean, they held on to basically this one sort of province out here. Except they were able to actually hold a tiny bit of Belgium throughout the whole World War I. And the rest of the country's occupied, obviously. That had the Belgians sort of like go, oh yeah, okay, we have Ebenemal and some of the other fortifications. Great, we've got those. That's cool. We're going to man them. While we man them, we're going to retreat the hell out and withdraw our army. I would have thought that would have been a reasonable plan. Portugal has long been a British ally. I mean, remember, I don't think we have any Belgian people here. Belgium is a creation of Britain. Britain entirely just creates Belgium out of thin air. But maybe not quite that extreme, but nearly that extreme. So they're in a similar sort of place. Portugal has long been a British ally. Portugal has long feared being absorbed into Greater Spain. I would say, though that's not entirely the case, but I would say the main reason Spain doesn't absorb Portugal is Spain is so busy dealing with its empire, from Mexico down to Chile here, Argentina, that it just has, bountiful riches and great expansionist possibilities that, hey, yeah, Portugal's fine. Portugal, gets basically this line right down here and east, so they get all the way, to Japan. So they get all the eastern trading. It's the sort of this part of the world Spain gets. So Portugal gets that. Now, but Portugal's still worried. So comes the Napoleonic War. Portugal is sort of kind of trying to stay neutral when it's Spain fighting against the British. But even before Napoleon takes over Spain and puts his brother on the throne of Spain, Portugal's aligned with Britain. And so there's a lot of fighting going on. Now, when it really comes down to Napoleon marching his major army in to crush the British army here, the Portuguese government decides, yeah, you know, we're going here. And they evacuate the government to Brazil. They evacuate the treasury. They evacuate everything out there and go, Wellington, if you want to, because this is all on a peninsula, if you want to try to defend this, great. Oh, and yes, you can burn everything, every bit of food that you can find. Go ahead, burn it all. Burn it all. You know, our people are going to starve. And they moved literally as much of the people, at least in this sort of region, into Lisbon. With the plan, they built Tierra de Fuentes. I'm not used to saying it. We're used to reading it. Lines. And they build fortification lines here. And the British plan is to literally supply all the food for the army and as much of the Portuguese people that can make it into Lisbon as they can from Britain. They start, and this is in the Napoleonic Wars, they start sending food down, large amounts of food down to Lisbon. Napoleon, before it actually heads into this, I think he gives it to Marshal Soult, however you pronounce it, Soult or whatever, I forget how to pronounce his name. I think he's the marshal in charge. Napoleon disappears with the rest of the army. Basically, the French army ends up starving here. So we have the example, or around 1808, 1809, something like that, of this going on, of a complete abandoning of the country, moving it safe to the colonies, and looking at national survival as for when the war is done. So I have to look at Belgium, why they didn't, and with Belgium, they have both examples of Poland and Czechoslovakia of exile legions, of exile stuff. I don't know why they didn't do a more comprehensive plan to evacuate arms production, evacuate men to fight, to have plans to go to Britain, have plans for the Dutch to, get in boats and go across, because it isn't that, we just saw, you see all the little boats going to Dunkirk. I don't know why the Dutch didn't do a massive, have sort of plans like anybody, get on boats, while we sink our country below the ocean waves, we're going to all go over to England. I don't know why that wasn't, maybe just politically too impossible, but I don't know why they didn't think and planned for that, at least. I know Queen Wilhelmina gets out and sets up her government in exile, but it just to me seems that they should have done much more, and I don't understand it. Let me read what blowing up their infrastructure with missiles. This is a military victory, not a political one, just like the Dutch operations in New Guinea. Not quite sure where we were on. Looking back to see AZADs. Iran versus India. I would believe that India would have difficulty in moving enough troops and supplying them logistically on their own to defeat Iran in Iran. Not that they couldn't militarily bomb ports and facilities, especially coastally, but actually getting in and occupying Tehran, I just don't know that. Maybe it's just my, shall we say, Western perspective, that I don't see India on its own. I'm just purely going India versus Iran. See them having the sea lift capacity and ability to do it. I may be wrong about that. Yeah, and I get that, but I'm talking all the little boats. Just like, everything. Just everybody get on a damn boat and go, kind of thing. Not just some of the larger stuff. Why would anyone occupy a super Switzerland? It's too damn big. I don't know about super. Is that what you're talking about, Iran? You see, again, this is my impressions, and I'm far from an expert on India, is that their army is almost too big for their ability to supply it. And so when you see them fighting a smaller but no, I'm not. This is in the past. Smaller but better armed, like Pakistan, and not crushing Pakistan. That's where I'm taking some of this stuff. Oh, okay. I get you there, Azad. You definitely have. Yeah, that's what I'm sort of thinking of with Iran. Oh yeah, and I understand that, but now, so I'm trying to picture 1940. In 1940, you have Japan tied up somewhat like this. And this is before the fall of France. You don't see. I would say the Europeans would see this as a territory that's well outside the area of the war. And so, and I see with Belgium, which was well outside the area of the war, the Belgian Congo. So, we should maybe send troops down here to fight the British in North Africa. Papa Haas troops. Let's select all. Come down to Toronto. We may be sending Papa Haas into the desert. Crushing Pakistan's it didn't happen because the U.S. 7th Fleet was at its doorstep. That very well could be. Yeah, like I say, I've read some, I would call it articles in some books and stuff that just briefly cover the various Indian-Pakistan wars. And some of my studies of small arms of the time period and continuing, so that India's army is large. Now the country is large, but so, and at least it's my impression, again, I'm going impressions here, is India's merchant marine isn't very large. That's, again, my impression. And the ability to supply a modern army large enough. Because I'm also looking at Iran and the Iran-Iraq war, that you know, just turned into a god-awful mess. And I think Iran is doing much, much better than in those days. So if we're not throwing nukes around or something like that, I just don't see India defeating Iran. And the way modern wars are fought, unless you can get in and defeat the country fairly rapidly, you're going into asymmetric warfare, sort of like what we're seeing down in Yemen right now. Because the U.S. very quickly, the Assyrian Empire, oh God, what the hell's going on with this? Oh God. The U.S. very quickly comes in and defeats Iraq. Well, did it twice. The second time when we occupy the country, the only real reason that the insurgency really goes on as long as it does is because of Iranian support, is outside support. And in my opinion, the only reason that Saudi Arabia hasn't won in Yemen yet is outside support by Iran. Clearly, the only reason the Hamas and Hezbollah both continue to exist as any sort of real formation is because of outside support, again, by Iran. Notice all three of those cases were primarily by Iran. So if you don't defeat Iran, truly take it out, you're going to have them supporting groups like Pakistani terrorists, attacking India, and other asymmetric warfare states. And it really, as I see it, really would become a problem long term for, and this gets back to what Azad was saying, politically maintaining the situation. It would be different for a limited action to say if there were Indian tankers or some such thing coming in and out of, the Persian Gulf here that gets attacked, that India responds to that attack. That's a different matter. That was the big Bangladesh Liberation War, by the way. Right, yeah. Well, yeah, Bangladesh was definitely East Pakistan at the time. And I do believe a bunch of Bangladeshis did sort of want to, they didn't like being ruled from Karachi or wherever. So, yeah. That was. If it was up to me, I would have at least evacuated our elite divisions, called the light divisions, and all of our Marines fighting. Yes, they wanted them to take out Saddam Hussein. Absolutely. Now they were mainly supporting the Sunnis in the south, but they were also because they wanted the U.S. out of the region. So they wanted us to take out Saddam Hussein, but they wanted us out of the region afterwards. So they were directly supporting the Sunnis down in the south, and indirectly supporting through Syria a lot of the various other groups in more central. Though there's a large, right in Baghdad, a large group of Sunni or Shiites. Sorry, they're Shiites. Large group of Shiites in Baghdad as well. But they were supporting the Sunnis indirectly more through Syria at the time. So yes, now what I'm actually sort of kind of thinking, Arno, is to, before the war even starts, when things are starting to look pretty bad, just go, oh, yeah, we need to do, like with your Marines and your light division, we need to do some special exercises down in the Dutch East Indies. Let's send them down there. Oh, well, let's send all of our Navy out to the Dutch East Indies. We need to protect that there. Evacuate that, and then have sort of a somewhat secret sort of plan. Not maybe too secret as in the details, but not not generally known by the populace is, hey, if there was any pesky country, we're not going to name any names of possibilities, but any pesky country deciding to invade our homeland, everybody, whether you get in a boat or just get in your large wooden shoes and sail for Britain. Everybody, anybody, everybody, just go to Britain. Everybody take a holiday in Britain for the duration of the war. And obviously, contribute to the war effort. Go to work in British factories or whatnot. If you weren't a combatant, non-combatant types. Or, if you're a young man, join up with whatever exiled forces and just really sort of have the basic plan is evacuate the country. We're going to come back when we can. That's sort of how I would have looked at this. Now, of course, I'm looking at this from hindsight. I don't really know what, because if we take away the air invasion, because we have not seen an air invasion prior to, the attack into here, because you have I think really only gliders going into Belgium. No, I think there may have been a small parachute drop somewhere in Belgium as well. The main sort of parachute drop is into Rotterdam, whatnot, into the Netherlands. And of course you have the parachute and air landings up in Norway, but those are all just literally moments before the invasion of the Low Countries. So you don't really have the examples of how, with Poland I'm talking about, good the air kind of thing. So you very well might think that there's a defensible line here. Obviously, you don't want to defend way out at the border here. But, so you might think that you could dig in and hold, but I would, and again, I'm looking back at it, and maybe if I was around at the time without thinking about the air and thinking about, hey, yeah, we can, build concrete bunkers in swamps so that the tanks can't get through to us and we can hold out. Maybe they could do. Most of our Navy was in most of the paratroopers around The Hague and Rotterdam, but they failed hard. Yeah. I know most of your Navy was out there, but I'm just sort of maybe overstating it. Now, of course, it turns out with Abdafloat that gets, just crushed by the Japanese. Now, but that's late. Well, that's actually really sort of 42. That's early 42 is when Abdafloat gets crushed, I think, or late December 41. So that's almost a year later. You have to think about the Japanese invasion is almost a year later, or even later than that, than the crushing of the home countries here. Oh yeah, no, the Germans took a lot of losses with it, with their airborne invasions. But then again, the German, no one had done airborne invasions before. No one knew what you needed to do an airborne invasion. Like, how well did you need to escort the planes? If we look at all of the German parachute invasions are done in the daylight, all, where I think all but the first, correct. I think only the first and the last airborne invasions. No, was Arnhem in daylight too, I think? Yeah, Arnhem was in daylight, airborne invasion in daylight as well, wasn't it? You could probably correct me on that. Because if I'm not mistaken, the very early airborne drops in North Africa were in daylight. The Sicily drops and D-Day and some of the other airborne drops were at night by the Americans. I think Arnhem was in daylight, and when they did it, I forget the name of it, they did a major airborne landing across the Rhine, right, at the end of the, obviously it's sort of at the end of the war. They did that in daylight. Yeah, it was in daylight. So, but maybe they were thinking by that point they had such air superiority. But obviously D-Day and Sicily were nighttime invasions. But the Germans wanted to do it in daylight. Daylight definitely favors getting your ground organization up and going. All the paratroopers finding each other and getting organized better. But daylight also favors things like anti-aircraft gunners and fighters to intercept them. But they don't. Well, I think we've talked on long enough here, so I think we're going to end the episode here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, I really love to hear from you, including correcting some of my bad history here. I'm going off the top of my head. Thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.